What's going on, guys? Arekkz here. Welcome back to another video for Animal Crossing New Horizons. And in this one, we are continuing with the 5-star island build series. Yes, you guys said in the last video that you really enjoyed the idea of it. You said that you were looking forward to seeing this through to completion, and that is exactly what we're gonna do. As mentioned before, I'm not entirely sure how long this series will be. It's basically just gonna be as long as it takes. And building is quite a lengthy process, and I'm kind of doing this in a very gradual process because I kind of want you guys to get involved along the way. There were some great suggestions last time, which we've incorporated into today's episode, so let's get started with that. Of course, if you guys missed the previous episode, then as a super quick recap, I basically had a 5-star island, completely flattened it down to absolutely nothing, no cliffs, no rivers, no nothing, blank slate, and we're now building it up from the beginning. And in the last episode, we went through and we laid down this initial pathway. I was testing out the idea of having like waterfalls around the entrance around my airport, and then also some kind of secret hidden pathway behind my house back where the secret beach will be, so that when Red eventually turns up, I can then use that to navigate there. Now, following on from that, I then went into the comments, obviously in the last video. Loads of great support, really appreciate that from you guys. And of course, if you do enjoy this episode, be sure to let me know in the comments down below. Be sure to stick around. If you don't want to miss the future episodes, you can turn on notifications. But more importantly, I went to the comments, was reading through all of them, and one of the suggestions really jumped out to me because obviously I'm a huge Zelda fan. My island is called Hyrule, and a comment from Rintaro said, why not make something like Kakariko Village? As that village is elevated, and infusing that with your castle idea, maybe you can make Hyrule Castle with a lush entrance, and that could also be your home or the museum, which I really like the idea of because, you know, elevations and whatnot, it works really nicely in Animal Crossing. So that is the basis of this idea. So in this episode, we're going to start building Kakariko Village. It's going to take a couple of episodes to get it completed. I'd like to say that by the end of this episode, by the time you get to the end of my spiel and the end of kind of the time lapses and whatnot, we're going to be probably, maybe a little bit less than halfway round, but basically the idea for today is to lay down the foundation. Now, for those of you guys that maybe haven't played Ocarina of Time, keep in mind, Kakariko Village is in different iterations of Zelda. For the purposes of this build, am using the Ocarina of Time Kakariko Village, partly because Ocarina of Time is my favourite Zelda game, and also because layout-wise, it's quite structured, quite simplistic, and will actually lend itself quite nicely to the way that Animal Crossing works. And that elevation, or that iteration of Kakariko Village, should I say, works around 3 primary elevations. Technically, there is a 4th elevation, which we can't do in Animal Crossing because you can only build up 2 levels, but for the purposes of this, I'm going to do my best to recreate it. Now, I will say, in hindsight, I probably should have built from the top or the back and worked forward, because as I started to lay the foundations and lay down the cliffs and whatnot, I realised that layout-wise and spacing-wise, I probably could have done with a bit more room. You'll notice that as we start to get towards the end of this, as I start to lay out where in Kakariko Village the windmill would normally be, there wasn't as much space as I would have liked. And yes, on one sense, I could have then gone back and restructured everything. But honestly, you guys know how long it takes to build anything in Animal Crossing. And the fact that I'd spent ages laying out all these cliffs to loosely kind of work out the layout for Kakariko Village, then I wasn't going to go and redo it all over again. I've already done this. I've already flattened an entire island. So once I rebuilt a section, we were going with it. So this might not be a perfect one-for-one recreation of Kakariko Village, but it's going to be the general kind of closest thing you're going to get. Anyway, that aside, a little bit of rambling, pre-ramble and whatnot, but I went over to the Happy Island designer, I took the idea, I looked at some images for Kakariko Village, and I plotted out a loose layout for it. The idea being that obviously, you have various different staircases. Interesting to note that obviously there seems to be I believe it's an 8 ramp limit in Animal Crossing, and Kakariko Village is going to use 6 of those. So it does mean that all of my ramps are basically going to be in this section of the island. So whatever I do over on the left-hand side is going to be heavily limited, but whatever, we're going with it anyway. So I worked out this plan, and this is basically what I started working to. Now, yes, again, as I mentioned, if I really wanted to try and sort of make it more accurate, I probably could have tried to sort of lay a map for Kakariko Village over the top of the island designer and then laid it out more accurately, but I've basically done this by eye. I just kind of like know the layout, and I thought, you know what, we're going to start laying it out until it looks roughly right, and we're going to go with that. It's Animal Crossing, right? It's not a one-for-one recreation. Nobody's going to complain, or if you are going to complain, then do it yourself. Anyway, point is, we went around and I started laying out the foundation, because obviously if you look at Kakariko Village, you go through this entrance. I'm hoping, by the way, there's some kind of item that I can use as like a wooden archway. I don't have it right now in my crafting recipes. If it exists, please let me know in the comments down below. Maybe you can donate it. That would be awesome. But anyway, you walk into Kakariko Village through an archway, and you walk into the lowest elevation. There'll be a central tree in the middle. I haven't planted it yet, I'll do it later, but there's a central tree, and in the lowest elevation there is one building in the corner. Now I opted to use the shop there, just because convenient location and whatnot. One of the things, obviously, if you look at Kakariko Village in Ocarina of Time, all the buildings are very regimented. They've got nice, sharp walls, which kind of aligns nicely with the edges of areas. Whereas in Animal Crossing, obviously, the buildings tend to have little borders around them, so it's not going to be quite the same. It obviously won't give you the same feel. But either way, I put the shop down here, and that is basically the lowest elevation. Then, once that was laid out, I was able to kind of start building up different areas. Obviously, in front of the shop, there is the backward staircase in the actual map for Kakariko Village, so we decided to lay that one down. And then, of course, next to the shop, there's another staircase that goes up to the second elevation, and then obviously straight behind the shop, or wherever that building is, there is a second building that is raised up. Now, again, one of the annoying things about Animal Crossing is that every building obviously needs to face forward. You can't rotate them, at least I don't think so. Hopefully I haven't played for like hundreds of hours and never actually worked it out, but I'm pretty sure you can't rotate buildings. So with that being said, I wasn't able to kind of have the tailors, which I was going to use at the second shop, jut straight onto the back of the shop, because obviously, you know, if you look at it in the Kakariko Village map, you can see there is a very obvious like alignment for these buildings. I couldn't quite do that. So the way that I've decided to try and replicate that is I've actually got walls. I started off with wooden fences, then I actually went around and I actually made the wall, the kind of brick wall fence, because I thought that way it kind of looks like bricks from a building, and then I can just place the building inside it. It's sort of the closest thing that I'm going to get to it. So let me know in the comments down below what you guys think. Maybe this works, maybe it doesn't. Tell me if you think, say, a fence would be better or bricks would be better. Either way, that's how I've laid it out. So I'm going to kind of sort of do that one structurally and put that there. Then my original plan was to put the museum at the very top, where in Ocarina of Time the windmill would be, because I don't believe there's a windmill. I know there's a wind turbine, and as you'll see later on, in fact I can kind of cut to it right now, I had this idea of basically trying to create a windmill by putting a wind turbine in front of a lighthouse. It's the closest thing I'm going to get right now. Anyway, I tried to put the museum there, and as I said before, because I hadn't really spaced it out properly, there was no space up there to put the museum. So I decided in the end to move my house. My house is now going to go in the position where the windmill would go in Kakariko Village. I'll then place a lighthouse and a wind turbine next to it to basically replicate where the windmill would be. And then what I'll probably do is, where in the previous episode I created the sort of secret passageway to get to the secret beach, I think I'll put the museum there, and then maybe I can lean more into Rintara's idea and create some kind of castle entrance to that area. Haven't entirely worked it out just yet. Point is, that's what I'm thinking. So, museum doesn't go there, my house goes there, and then obviously I need to move some of the other houses. Now, I haven't moved any other house just yet. Obviously, you know, it takes a few days to move all the houses, and I want to kind of work out the layout. And this is where I can really do with opinions from you guys, because here's what I'm trying to work out. If we take an example over here, you can see that there's this second elevation, and in the Kakariko Village in Ocarina of Time, buildings jut right onto the edge of the cliff face. Now, again, that looks quite cool because the buildings are large, and obviously they have this huge wall to the side of them. Buildings in Animal Crossing are not that big. So I've asked if I can move Lionel's house, and as an example, what do you think looks better? Do you think I should put Lionel's house so it juts onto the very edge of the cliff, so that way it's technically speaking more reminiscent of the actual build, or do I continue with the brick wall theme, where I then use the brick walls to kind of lay the foundation or the outer perimeter of the buildings and place the buildings within it? I haven't quite decided, which is why we haven't placed Lionel's house yet, so I'm basically going to use your input for the future of the episode. So then kind of depending on what you guys say, depending on what you guys think looks best, is effectively going to influence how the rest of the buildings are laid out. Because once I know that, I can then decide better placement. Obviously keep in mind, depending on the angles, some of this will work better. So when I look to, say, the left part of the island, and I know that the building is going to have to face downwards, it might not necessarily work as well, which is precisely why I was thinking of using brick walls, because then anytime there would normally be a building in the actual Kakariko Village, it then means that I can just lay a brick wall around it and I can place the building wherever I please. Give it a kind of garden, do whatever I want with it. Honestly, I'm still undecided, so help your boy out. But anyway, that's kind of it. That's it for this episode. That's a quick rundown on my build this week. That is this week's progress. That is Kakariko Village. I kind of want to say half done, because layout-wise I'm pretty much there, and then once we've got the buildings positioned in, I can then move them across. I've got a few more ramps to build, and then obviously it's a case of decorating. We're going to do decorating like super last, so obviously we'll just go in, put the buildings in, probably work out the rest of the map, and then we'll come back and do a decorating pass, but either way, that's the plan. So, episode 2 done. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Again, if you missed the previous one, you can check that out over on the channel or link down below. And be sure to keep it locked because I'm going to have a new episode of this every single week. It is just once a week at the moment because it takes a long time to do all this building and I've got loads of other things that I'm kind of juggling and playing at the same time. So, you know, at the moment, video once a week, probably on Sundays. So check back next week for the next progress. Thanks so much for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed that video. Don't forget, if you haven't already done so, you can join the Arekkz Gaming Discord. We've got an awesome community over there with so many different channels for you to chat loads of different topics and different games. I'm in there, the team's in there. If you guys want to chat with us, find people to play with, it's just in general a great place to be. And of course, if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to turn on those notifications so you don't miss any of our future uploads.